Welcome to the show, Gearheads. We just watched Max Verstappen win his 9th race of the season at the Qatar Grand Prix. This is Jon Massengale, joined by Jonathan Green, both in the booth in Austin, Texas. Chris Medland will join us shortly. Jonathan, that race was hectic, wasn't it? Oh, you're on mute, Johnny. Oh, it looks like Jonathan cannot hear me right now. But yes, it was. I'll wait for Jonathan to get that figured out. But man, it was a crazy race. I mean, I started taking notes, and I literally ran out of paper on the last page of my notebook. Had to grab another one, and was completely full with all the insane notes. But yes, Max Verstappen wins the race. Let me just run down the order. Max Verstappen wins the race, followed by Charles Leclerc in second, and Oscar Piastri in third. And remember, there's lots of Constructors' Championship ramifications from all of this. So in fourth is Russell's in fourth, Gasly in fifth. Huge points for Alpine there. That'll make a big difference. We'll go over all that. Carlos Sainz in sixth, Fernando Alonso in seventh, Zhou Guanyu, wow, in the points for the first time this season. And Kevin Magnussen in ninth, more points for Haas. Lando Norris all the way down in 10th after a very controversial penalty that we're going to talk about. And Valtteri Bottas in the other Sauber car in 11th, almost double points for them for the first time this season. Lewis Hamilton, who had what I'm going to call kind of a meltdown in this race, down in 12th. Yuki Tsunoda 13th. Yuki had a great start and then dropped back down. And Liam Lawson, Alex Albon, and then the following cars did not finish the race. Hulkenberg, Perez, Stroll, Colapinto, and Ocon all did not finish the race. So it was a crazy, it was a pretty amazing race considering all those things went on, and there was penalty after penalty after penalty. And I can't even imagine how many penalties we are. There were so many penalties that we're going to have to go through all this, and Chris Medland's going to help us get through all this here in a minute. But
yep, it was a weird one.
Yeah, it was. Jonathan, I have multiple pages of notes here.
I know. I was wondering what you were going to ask, and I was like, Jensen Button just got asked the same question. Was like, well, how would you sum it up? And he goes, it's really quite hard.
Yeah. Well, I was actually trying to do a little tweeting, social media and stuff, and I was like, I can't keep up and do both. So there was no way. But I think we have to start with the penalty on Lando Norris, because that is the harshest level of penalty besides a black flag that you can get with a 10-second drive-through. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
And it basically puts paid to any hopes, really. I mean, I know Piastri got good points, but by my word, that really takes a dent out of their hopes of, holding off Ferrari, etc. So, not good.
Well, okay. So I say it doesn't make sense to me. Let's try to understand why this penalty is so severe. And number one is that it's a safety issue, right? Because the safety, they treat safety issues the harshest, don't they?
Yeah, true.
And so do you think that can you make sense of it in your mind?
Not really, and that's what kind of I'm scratching my head. There's been, like you got the false start penalty for Hamilton, you got the Lawson penalty, all of which made sense. And actually, I was thinking at the time, boy, they're on their mark this weekend, which is good. In other words, they're being transparent and they're doing their thing. But this one just is a head scratcher.
Yeah, and K-Mag had an interesting race today too. I saw that. I mean, he finished down in ninth, so he finished in the points. He got a point. Yeah, he got a couple points there, right? But I love the radio message where he basically dropped an F-bomb and just said, I forgot who he was battling with. But what I loved about K-Mag is that he was battling the entire race. During the race early on, I saw him pass Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, that was awesome.
He went around the outside.
They stayed together.
Yeah, stayed together, went around the outside, and then hit the gravel and still completed the pass. I know Yuki was struggling a little bit by that time, but still pretty amazing.
Yeah, Yuki doesn't give in much, and he wasn't about to give in then. And he came against his arch nemesis, I think, in that one, because K-Mag doesn't care anymore.
So Alonso finished 7th, but he played a huge part in this race with his mirror breaking off after contact.
And it was the Sauber that went over it, right?
It was Bottas who went over it. That's right. And so Bottas went over it, turned it into shards, which was immediately followed by Hamilton and Sainz both had punctures right after that. And then that changed everything, because then you had the pit stops, multiple pit stops for people that got free pit stops. If some had just, the pit cycle had already started. So it became, actually, from a strategic standpoint, a huge part of the race.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. Like you say, I'm looking at my notes, and I've got Gasly, passes slow, 5 seconds for Hamilton, and then it starts sort of trailing off.
Well, and of course that was part of what happened to McLaren, and also I'm just looking through my notes. I'm saying, okay, because you were free pit stop for Leclerc, and he ended up second? Yep, he ended up second, and and obviously with Carlos Sainz, he had paid the price because he had the puncture, so he ended up finishing 4 places behind his teammates. But still, Jonathan, what this really did is it pushed the constructors' battle to the final race of the season.
3, not quite.
Yeah, exactly.
And look, I mean, part of me is excited that we have one more race to talk about.
Have I lost you?
Part of me is yeah, Jonathan, I think.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you. I was just saying, this constructors battle, I mean, look, yeah, it's great for racing. We got one more race to think about, but I want to get Chris Medland's take, because I see Chris has joined us. Chris, we were talking about this penalty on Lando Norris, the severity of it more than anything else. What's your take on that?
I think, to be honest, anything that's ignoring yellow flags is a slam dunk heavy penalty. So I'm actually surprised people are quite so shocked by it. If a driver ignores a double waved yellow flag, which is, slow down and be prepared to stop if needed, then they're going to get in a lot of trouble. And I remember seeing it at the time. I tweeted it out that Norris gained over half a second on Norris in the first on Verstappen in the first sector, and that was done when the yellow flags were out and everyone else was slowing down. You could see in that sector, it just felt like he could be in trouble, and you cannot ignore or miss a double waved yellow flag.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's the point that I was making, Chris. At first, I was baffled by it, but the safety aspect, whenever you get safety like that, it just, is part of the issue. They're going to hit hard, like you said.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that it's not as simple as just the yellow flag part, though, because from what we could see from the race control screen, all sorts of messages were coming in and out to the drivers. It was going yellow flag, double waved yellow, slippery surface. There was all sorts of things on the on race control. Now, I believe they still got on their dashes and on their wheels and probably in their ears as well, told that it was double waved yellow, so to be careful. But it seemed a bit confusing from the outside, at least. But every other driver seemed to adhere to it, so that's why Norris got such a heavy penalty.
Fair enough.
Well, Chris, speaking of your Twitter, I'm assuming your hands are cramping, because I can't even imagine trying. I know you live tweet, but there was so much going on in this race.
Yeah, it was. It got hectic, didn't it? It was strange because there was a lull in the middle of that race where it was, dare I say it, a bit dull. I mean, it was great that the drivers were pushing, but the tyres were holding up so well that we weren't really getting much in the way of fluctuations. And the pace was impressive, but it just wasn't leading to amazing racing at the front, at least, as Norris and Verstappen went away and traded a 10th here and a 10th there. But then suddenly it just came alive with that wing mirror from the Williams. So, yeah, strange kind of set of events after that. Lots of penalties, lots of heavy penalties that really could have really could have been smaller, I think, actually. I think it's from the start giving Lance Stroll a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision, and then following that with the one for Liam Lawson when he spun and made some slight contact with with Valtteri Bottas at turn 1. Precedent was set then. You were getting 10 seconds if you had any sort of contact with anyone, and that kind of rolled on with all the other penalties.
Yeah, I thought the Lawson one was quite harsh. I mean, he missed his breaking point, but it was, it's first corner. It wasn't like, do you know what I mean? It was restart. It was kind of like there's a little bit of leeway.
Yeah, cold tyres, going wheel to wheel, car in front that affects it as well. But at the same time, these drivers are the best in the world, or some of the best in the world, and they know that they're going to get dirty air from a car that they're close behind, especially when they cross behind it in a 180-degree corner. They know their tyres are going to be cold, and it is on Lawson to keep control of his car. But yeah, I did feel that one was potentially harsh. To be honest, I didn't even notice he'd made any contact, and it's just that Bottas has had to run wide, which, again, I understand from Bottas's point of view would be frustrating, but it did feel like all of the penalties seemed to be on the more severe.
Well, yeah, and I said to John earlier before you came on, maybe, at the start of the race, I thought, good, they're really giving us updates quickly, and they're making decisions, which has always been a bugbear of mine, that sometimes you lose, when you don't get a decision immediately.
In many ways, you can say it felt like everyone was getting drives that somehow have upset the FIA recently.
Yeah.
So going back to the start of the race, Verstappen had a great start. Russell, honestly, I'm looking at Russell at fourth. I think he was lucky to end up there, as considering the race he had. But Verstappen had a great start. Russell did not, and of course Norris had a great start. Yeah. That was pretty exciting from the beginning.
Well, I thought Norris was going to hold the lead, but that was a great move by Verstappen at turn 2.
Yep. And Chris,
it was indeed. Sorry, yeah, I'm back with you guys. I had a bit of a delay there for a second, and I was hanging around Ferrari looking for Fred Vasseur, who's just gone inside. I'll see if I can grab him later. Yeah, I thought Norris had that done, and you kind of wanted to see him throw it around the outside. But when you see the onboard from Verstappen's point of view, he did have the high ground there, and I think Norris would have been risking a lot if he'd have tried to cut across Verstappen. We want to see drivers be aggressive against Max, because that's, I think, the best way to fight him. But you can't be reckless, and if a move's not going to come off, sometimes you just have to accept that you don't have the high ground and you've got to yield.
Yeah, yep. Looking down the order here, Piastri had a nice solid race. He did get the benefit of a pit stop, I believe, but he had a nice solid race. And Gasly in fifth, huge constructor implications there, Chris.
Yeah, massive. I'm going to have to try and get myself down to Alpine as well at some point. There's so many stories to follow up on here. I'm running around everywhere. I'm at McLaren now, but no sign of any of their hierarchy at the moment. And don't know if Andrea Stella will talk, but he'd be the best one to hear about his thoughts on the penalty to Norris. But yeah, that's massive for Alpine. And another great performance from Gasly, and keeping that Ferrari behind as well, keeping Sainz at bay in the latter stages. Important on two fronts, because that's bigger points for Alpine, and big points are not easy to come by for the midfield teams. But then it also restricted how many points Ferrari gained on McLaren as well.
Yeah, and there's a lot of egg on face at RB. I think their chances now of getting sixth place have drifted straight out. They're now on 8th position with 46, and so they're over 12 points behind Alpine now for 6th.
Yeah, and that takes a lot. That's a 4th place on its own. But I know you can do that with 2 cars scoring, but it just doesn't look likely, does it, really? And there was a bit of a gamble taken by RB. They went for the soft tyres late in that race, as Williams did too with Alex Albon. And you can understand why. The warm-up on the hard was so tricky that you could make ground pretty quickly in the first few laps. But it then kind of faded pretty quickly as well. The softs just wouldn't hold on such a high-energy track. So it was kind of short-term gain for long-term pain.
Yep.
Yeah, and Alpine now 5 points ahead of Haas, which doesn't sound like much, but at this point, those cars are so evenly matched with one race left. I think Haas is going to have to get lucky, kind of like Alpine did today, to be able to overtake them.
Yep, I think you're right. I think we've kind of decided a few things today, and I think that result by Alpine is not miraculous, but given where they were 3 Grand Prix ago, it's pretty outstanding, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, and Chris, do you agree with me when I'm saying they got lucky? Pit stop cycle.
Alpine.
Yeah, with Gasly.
Ish. But, there was quite a few cars yet to stop at that point. So it was, potentially. So I'm just jumping out the way of French broadcaster Canal Plus who are down here at Alpine. They're going to do some RT camera work that I was getting in their way of because they're obviously very happy with how today's gone so far. There was a number of drivers that kind of, you could say, got lucky there. But you mentioned Piastri. He didn't, in a sense. He came in precautionary stop before the safety car came out, so didn't get the full gain of that. And he still finished ahead of Gasly. That could have turned around differently. Gasly was there in the top 10, wasn't he, from the start of the race? So he was there or thereabouts. So, he's kind of put himself in that position. And when other drivers just have bad days, Lewis Hamilton had a shocking day, to be honest. Shocking weekend on his side of the garage. Sergio Perez retiring. But, those are just ones that you're picking off, and you've put yourself in that position to do so.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, Ocon, may have got that podium at Brazil, but most of these points for sixth place that have been gained recently, it's all Gasly, isn't it?
Yeah, big time. Very impressive run he's been on. He's shown some great form. And I think it's, we talked about it on yesterday's show, I think it was, wasn't it? That, maybe the future changes and the fact that Ocon is leaving might have played into that slightly, at least. But I'd also say Ocon was very unlucky today. He did nothing wrong in the incident that saw Hulkenberg spin and make contact with him, that then put him into Colapinto and took him out. More damage for Williams to fix, but again, not Colapinto's fault on that one either. So that's just a racing incident. You can't really point too much finger of blame at those. But Gasly's just been so consistent, so impressive, and fair play to the team as well. I hope I do get to speak to Ollie Oakes in a bit to say this to him. But the development they've done to the car in the second half of the season has really put it in a position to score points regularly. This is not just one-offs that, like one race weekend they've taken advantage of. They've had a bunch now where they've scored points and a couple that they've taken advantage of for big points. But the car has definitely improved heavily since essentially Qatar.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were at the beginning of the season, it was curtains, wasn't it? We thought it was going to be over for them. And it never really got better as the season went on with people leaving, the news of Renault. It just didn't get better. And they were bottom for a long time, or at least battling for the last place for a long time.
Yeah, it was quite disappointing, actually, the first part of the year. And I'm with you. I'd kind of written them off. I didn't really see that they were going to have the structure to make games because, the technical director left at the start of the season and they was just in such a bad way. And then the news of the power unit change just makes you think this is a team that's completely into a restructuring phase and an overhaul that might be for a sale. It might be just to try and be more competitive in the future, but it didn't feel like it was one for the here and now to get better. So they've done a really good job to claw their way back into that fight. And if they do end up holding on to sixth, that will be pretty remarkable, I would say, not only based on where they were earlier. I think, you could have seen it coming after Brazil, but then when they dropped back again after Las Vegas, you kind of felt like, they're settling back into their average position or the position you'd expect. And instead, here they are fighting back again.
I know, it's pretty impressive. And actually, if they can keep the chassis stroke, car that they've got, they're going to put a decent, reliable engine. They're going to become a customer. That's going to take some pressure off. It's a good engine. We could see them actually fight for fourth against Aston next year.
Yeah, and
absolutely could. Fifth, I'd say. I reckon the top four are pretty set in terms of Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes. I'd be surprised if one of those four dropped away. But Aston, again, did get on the board, actually, today in the end. Fernando Alonso, after his moans, did score points. That was still a bit of a boost for them. I think that's been about 4 or 5 weekends since they last scored. There's so much potential in so many teams, isn't there, in Formula One at the moment? You can see so many of them, having the ability to do well, just not always able to execute. And if everyone did perform to their full potential as it stands, I think we'd have some really, really strong teams out there, actually, and Alpine could have been one of them.
John, I like this story. I like this Jack Doohan idea.
Well, yeah. Hey, Chris, the race.com is reporting that Ocon is going to step aside at Abu Dhabi and Jack Doohan to drive the car. Have you heard anything about this?
I have not. I've been... they've kept Doohan out of the limelight all weekend. I did an interview with him at the start of the weekend because it's for a magazine feature that will come out in January about his debut season. So that was allowed to happen, but no more than that at that stage. Now I've just seen someone from the race actually down here chatting, and I'm gonna try and get Ollie Oakesfield talk. I know he's gonna moan. I'm gonna walk with you like the whole 5 yards to your motorhome. Well, Ollie, congratulations, 5th place for Pierre. What a result!
No, it was mega race, mega. I don't know what else I can say on it really, other than I was just genuinely. It was pretty mental, wasn't it? You sort of, do we stay out? Do we come in early for the hards? And we, everything was good, so we left him out. And it was just more at the end really. That was a mega stint there with. Keeping Carlos at bay, using all the tools we had, and obviously just credit to everybody really after Vegas to pick themselves up as well.
I said something similar, but also credit to the development work you've done on this car to be now regularly fighting for points.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not. It is tricky because I think we brought a big upgrade to Austin, and we're still getting better each weekend with that. I think also you see every weekend is different. What gets thrown at you as well for the car. I mean. This is another different circuit to Vegas, and it's good to be competitive again. Yeah.
Now, the final question I've got to ask you is one you're not going to like, but I've just been told in my ears to ask you about it. Mr. We've got head of comms here too, so this will be fun. A report on the race that Jack Doohan will race in Abu Dhabi in place of Esteban. Is that true?
No. I don't. Yeah,
from the team. No.
No. Okay.
No official comment from the team is the official comment from the team. Is how I'll take that, rather than a no or a yes. So, thank you guys. Well done today.
Well, okay, Chris, we got a
clear as mud. That wasn't it.
Well, he said no.
Well, he did say no, but as his at the same time that his head of comms said, and it was his head of comms that he asked, is this true? So that sounds strange. One, because maybe Ollie Oakes wouldn't know. Because you'd have Flavio Briatore might have made a call there. Esteban himself might have made some sort of decision. You don't know for sure. But flip side of that is that if they're kind of going to announce it, and they haven't announced it yet, then he's basically saying, can I confirm it or not? Or should I deny it or not? Because I've put him on the spot there and then. But his head of comms said no official comment from the team. So rather than no being what they wanted to say, it was no official comment, which if it was a no, if that was completely false, you'd just say no, wouldn't you? So
in the article, I'm reading it now, and it says, Ocon's sort of quoting like it's been a good run,
So I did see him heading towards the media pen just now. I think he's waited. He's done the old trick that drivers do when they retire early in a race. Don't go to the media pen straight away, because if you do that, you're going to be the only one there, and you're going to get a lot of questions. Whereas if you wait until the end of the race, you still fulfill your requirements of having to go to the media pen, but you're not the story anymore. There's all the other drivers are in there, lots of other things to talk about from the Grand Prix, and you get out more quickly. So he's pulled that fast one, and I'm going to go and try and see if he's down there at the moment and see if I can speak to him.
Is he eligible to drive for Haas?
See what you're doing, Johnny? Starting good. All right, hey, this is a good spot for a quick break, and we'll take this now, and we'll be back after these messages. All right, let's check in on YouTube while Chris wanders down there. The first comment I saw was the last one. Zhou Guanyu has outscored Perez across the last 4 races.
What a comment. I want to know what happened with Checo. Sorry I missed you guys there. I was actually bumped into Bernie Collins and tried to get her steer if she knew anything about Esteban, because she will know his team very well from their time at Force India together. But she did not know. She had not heard that. So I'm going to go and try and find the driver himself. But yes, that's a brutal stat for Checo. But also, I want to know whether he spun on his own and that damaged his car, or if his car had a problem and that's why he spun.
Yeah, I know. We hadn't even talked about that, which we will. Bill Ricker says the new race director and stewards were hyperactive. Yeah, Bill. Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah, it's almost like they overcompensated.
Yeah. Yeah, D. Nelson says, I don't understand the stop and go penalty, 10-second time penalty more appropriate, but I think Chris answered that with.
Yeah.
But he says leaving the mirror out on track for all those laps is surely a bigger safety issue. That's a really good point.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That is the catalyst for those things, but that doesn't excuse Norris, but it does mean I want to. I'd love to speak to someone from the FIA about that decision making. I'm certain they will not put anyone up for us tonight, but if I get the chance, I will try.
Yeah, Andy P agrees the same thing. The entire mirror thing ends up costing him mass confusion that definitely should have been handled differently.
And Chris,
Yes.
I mean, Ben Suleiman, I mean, there must be rumbles now. I know you're in the Middle East, but there must be rumbles for his head now.
Quite the opposite. He's taking off everyone else's head. It's what term I was going to use. What a dictator does to strengthen their position, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, here
we go.
Don't question him. Seems to be the message.
Yeah, and he's waiting for his 2025 vote.
I'm Liam Lawson, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
At Sunoco, performance is what they do. And as one of the most legendary brands in motorsport history, sitting at the front of the pack with sponsorships across more than 40 different racing entities, they are now here to tell race fans everywhere that they have made their long-awaited return to the world of Formula One. As the official sponsor of Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber, Sunoco, no one knows racing like they do. All right, it's Jon Massengale, Jonathan Green, and Chris Medland on site in Qatar, and we were just during the break. Actually, we were talking about the what Max Godfrey calls on YouTube is Mirrorgate, and well, basically that someone brought it up that it was not handled very well, and I don't know. I mean, Chris, what do you think they should have done differently?
Get a safety car earlier, or at least a VSC, so you can send someone out to go and pick that mirror up. Because, it was going to sit there the whole race. It would have impacted racing the whole time, because exactly what happened. You have a driver trying to go down the inside of someone else; they could hit something. So that was very much one that I could have seen coming from a long way off, and you just thought they're not going to just leave it under, yellow flags for the entire race and ruin racing, are they? So. Sure, they just didn't make a decision until it was made for them when Bottas hit it. And I'd like to know for sure that the punctures were caused by that. I wonder if there's a combination there, that there could have been cuts caused by debris from that, but also these teams were pushing their tyres for long stints because the tyres were holding up in terms of grip. But this is high speed, high energy. We've had tyre failures here last year where they actually had to change the maximum stint lengths because of the curbs were causing cuts. I think there's a number of factors that could have come into that, because both front lefts for the two drivers that had the failings, and it did happen straight after that debris was hit. But at the same time, that's the tyre that's probably least likely to touch it.
Well, maybe it was a little of both. In other words, the tires were worn down and they were super susceptible, and even a small shard of that carbon fiber took them out. Maybe I don't know.
I know now. Well, at least I've got the answer to a question. What's next for Bottas? Which is 10 years of bad luck. He smashed a mirror.
Yeah, very true.
I thought it was 7. I thought it was 7 years.
Oh, is it 7? Oh well.
I don't know.
I think it's just a reflection of the way the state of the sport is.
Nice. But that seems so obvious, really, Chris. It's like, why don't you just, like you were saying, just get somebody out there? I mean, whose responsibility is it to make that call? Is it our new race director? Who is that? Who does that?
Good question. We've lost Medland.
Go ahead.
Well, I got everything you just said very quickly as a catch-up from our connection. So
I was just saying,
have to put it back
whose responsibility ultimately is to decide who puts a virtual safety car to send somebody out to get that mirror.
Yeah, that's race director. Race control would make that call. The race director would say, yeah, we need a safety car for that. They would probably speak with the clerk of the course as well about where marshals are posted, how they would do stuff. But that will come down to race direction. So that's one that's very much on Rui Marquez and his own decision making on that front.
Yeah, and Greeny, that goes right to your MBS, problems that you've got with him right now.
Yeah, and I actually think Rui did a good job today. It wasn't an easy race for all the reasons we've said. If we were confused and the commentators are confused, and even even Ollie Oakes couldn't have all the answers to the question. He was saying that it was a tough weekend to make decisions. So yeah, I think on the balance of things, they've recovered well given what's going on in the background. And yeah, I'm wondering now whether I made the comment is Ben Suleiman's job.
Let's talk to someone who's had a cracking day with Alpine. Pierre Gasly, big smile on your face. How special does that result feel?
Incredible. It's a top 5, 10 points, crucially important in the championship for the battle for 6 in the constructor. And yeah, what a race. I mean, fighting Carlos the last 15, 16 laps. I just felt, well, last time it happened was in Monza when I won, so it was pretty good to have him right behind. And it's only the second time this year we're in a position to fight for a top 5, so I wasn't going to give him an easy run. And yeah, it was a very intense, fun battle, and the car was mega, so really enjoyed that one.
Well, I know the car's improved, but how well have you been driving to get these results?
Yeah, good, but it's been a challenging season. We haven't been in a position to fight for this position, and it's always more exciting, especially when we're slowly getting the car where I want and where I need. To really get every millisecond and every hundredth out of it. So I think we're in a good spot. We're on a good trajectory, and yeah, definitely brings me optimism for 2025 as well.
Great stuff. I'll pass you over to my wife now. I was allowed to doorstep him before he went on Sky.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Chris's wife works at Sky, so yes. You're muted, Johnny. Oh, Jonathan.
He'll pay for that. He'll pay for that comment.
Yeah.
I don't think she heard. Pierre did, and he laughed at it. But
oh, good.
I was going to try and see if I could grab Joe, but I think he's going to scoot. He's got a scooter waiting for him.
Just going back to the theory. Sure. Just going back to the theory, guys, do you think that the idea of putting Doohan is twofold, potentially? I mean, I know no one's confirmed it, but, they're fighting for 6. Do they feel that Ocon is not contributing anymore and he's kind of lost the plot, and that a new buck would help Gasly get more points?
No. Or do you just want to see Jack Doohan in the car because Ocon is kind of checked out?
Well, he's going to be in the car for the test, so this is a much better way. Yeah, I'd like to see him in the car, because Ocon can't bring anything.
Yeah, I mean, and nothing like an actual race to test a driver, right? What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, it'd be great to see, but that you don't need to do that with Doohan unless you maybe have question marks, I'd say. If you're committed to him, you could argue that get the work started early. Stuff you'll learn will be beneficial over the off-season, definitely. And I guess little to lose based on how it has been going recently for Ocon on that side of the garage. But I don't know, it just seems a bit odd to me that you wouldn't have the send-off, especially, talking about that second place that Esteban had in Brazil not long ago. This is a top-class driver, and something isn't quite working, but when there's an opportunity there, then he's getting results. And today was not a day where there's an opportunity, and that was not through his own fault. So I did find that a bit strange. I have sent a message that I haven't found him. I've been running around looking, and he wasn't around, so we had to make do with Pierre instead. But I have messaged his manager just to see if I can get an answer on that, because maybe it sounds like from what you guys have said, and actually speaking to another Alpine team member who says, I don't know, it sounds like it's come from Ocon's team rather than from anyone else. So I'll see if they'll confirm.
Well, and I also think, looking at that, let me ask you this. Andy P on YouTube says that the punctures were caused by the curbs in the long first stint, and that not the mirror was the cause. So maybe let's try to ask somebody with the teams, particularly.
Well, so I've now had a message from, I don't mind admitting this, from my wife saying Ocon's been fired on the spot. You might want to get to Alpine. Oh. So at the very least, there's something going on here. Now, I'm not sure where their info was from.
Marriage.
Just a warning on that, though. I obviously spoke to Sky Sports' Bernie Collins saying, have you heard this? And she's like, no. So if she's passed it back saying, this is being reported, it would be funny if if it's kind of like, a misunderstanding of a story that's gone round in a circle and come back to me. So I won't confirm what I've just said, but it can tell you that that's how a rumor is spreading around the paddock right now.
Maybe you should rush down and tell Ollie Oakes.
Yeah, I
Well,
just
yeah.
love this, Chris. Having done the job that you've done, I love the fact that you're actually showing how it really happens in real time, because it can, there was a Japanese guy called Kaz who is still around occasionally, but he was my go-to guy. If there was a rumor, I would try to run around the paddock and look for him, because my producers would be like, well, what's happening?
This is exactly right, though. You're getting it real time right now. And
It's awesome.
Behind the scenes. Yeah, it's very cool.
But fired on the spot is a different way of looking at it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, big
Because
time.
if that's the case, he's obviously thrown his hands up in the air. And the racer's quotes were from Ocon saying, when everything's right, it's been good and all this sort of stuff. So there seems a lot more validity to this now.
Yeah, I'm looking at that too. It says, I'd like to thank the team for their hard work over the year, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, all that stuff.
That's a retirement speech.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the boilerplate.
And the
stuff.
the races are very well respected. They're long form writers. They don't just throw things out. It's not a shock horror gas place.
I know,
It's
they're good.
proper
I would rank them right below Chris Medland, though.
Oh, you're too kind. Racer over the race. Yeah.
Yeah,
I get to plug that.
absolutely. Oh, please, Chris. I wasn't even going there.
No, I agree with you, though. They're a very good outlet, very reputable bunch there. I know the guys. They actually sat directly behind me in the media centre this week. And I'm not sure whose byline is on that story, but it's
not their
Scott
style
Mitchell?
to just do short stories,
Yeah.
is it?
No, not at all. Yeah, Scott Mitchell Mann was the one who I saw come and speak to a member of Alpine.
Oh, yeah.
So it's it hit that all tallies. If he'd have got it totally wrong, I think they'd have been screaming at him. So I believe that's likely to have legs, or more likely than not, given where it's come from.
Yeah. And I mean, look, none of us are sitting here going, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this has happened." This is not.
Do you know
weird the way it happened right now with one race to go? But yes.
Yeah. Do you know who Alpine are running in the test?
Sorry, I've been chasing other sources. What was everyone saying?
Yeah, do you know who Alpine are running in the test? Presumably not Ocon.
No, that was Doohan. Ocon will drive for Haas in the test, and Doohan will drive for Alpine. And obviously that tallies with he's a rookie, so he can do the rookie car, and Pierre can still drive the other car, the tyre test car. Whereas Ocon doing that for Haas then means it's going to be. Sorry, I'm just walking through Alpine and talking about them. Ocon driving for Haas means that Behrman can't do the test for Haas because you've got a race driver in there already. So I believe there's going to be some sort of
because they haven't Alpine
link
just signed a new driver.
Drive for them. They have Paul Aaron, but
that's it.
He's
Paul
a
Aaron,
reserve. So Doohan can still do that and count as the junior driver.
Okay, so he might get a run.
Indeed. No, because Doohan counts as the rookie.
I see.
Doohan gets that run, and Pierre can still do the other testing.
Gotcha.
So because teams will want to use a race driver for one of them.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about Checo Perez. I'm looking at the clock. Let's go ahead and get our break in really quick, and then I want to come back and talk about Checo, because what happened today was weird, and there's also an interesting stat to go along with Checo. And you're listening to Speed City F1, and we'll be back after these messages. All right, let's see what YouTube's going. It's Andy P was talking about that. We'll check it out, Andy. The teams were told that the punctures led to the safety car to force all the teams off the change the tires, but they're apparently willing to live with the shattered mirror. Yeah, that part, the more we talk about it, doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you're right.
Ray says race control can hold drivers accountable, but race control can play it fast and loose when it comes to making safety decisions. I mean, this was what the worst case scenario for Marquez, the new race director, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
it's a not what you wanted. You wanted a nice, quiet 3 races to end this season and kind of get your footing.
Yeah, if there's appeals now to some of these decisions, I mean, he's going to be up all night having just done, 3 major race series.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by, I used the word dangerous yesterday, but I just felt that it was unsafe that a guy could be put under that kind of pressure to force him to make these decisions.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, race director is such an important position. It could cause a dangerous situation, which, honestly, I mean, the mirror on the track like it was, I think you could say that could, could have caused a puncture that caused a bigger problem. So, yeah, big crash. All right, let's see what else. We got a couple more live. We got one more live read. I'll go ahead and do that coming back.
That's good. We've had some good live reads.
Yeah. Got Sunoco and Tire Rack. Tire Rack's not live. They're just commercials in the body of the show. Anybody else on YouTube? Anything? Max Godfrey says, Sergeant officially the dead last driver. Oh, Max.
Hi, this is Karun Chandok, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
At Sunoco, performance is what they do, and is one of the most legendary brands in motorsports history, sitting at the front of the pack with sponsorships across more than 40 different racing entities. They're now here to tell race fans everywhere that they have made their long-awaited return to the world of Formula One as the official sponsor of Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber. Sunoco, no one knows racing like they do. All right, we got this Jon Massengale, Jonathan Green, and Chris Medland. And Chris, I wanted to check in with you just to see what's going on. Then we're going to talk about Checo. Are you there with the mic? Oh wait, he's muted. So wait, he's back. He's back. What you got, Chris?
I'm here just to say I'm trying to find out some stuff that we've been chatting about. So I'll come back to me in a sec.
Okay, you got it. All right. Well,
Let's talk Checo.
Well, yeah, let's talk Checo. First of all, let me see if I've got this stat handy again, because the stat about Checo, bottom line is it says Checo's going to finish the season P8. Looks like no matter where the points, he's going to finish P8. The lowest position of a champion's teammate since Jos Verstappen in 1994.
Oh, that's ironic.
I just thought that was a funny stat.
Well, Chris was using the stat at Vegas quite well, and he kind of pontificated. I think it's only the 4th time in history that the winning drivers' champion has not been part of the constructors' championship.
No, what it was the winning team. I mean, the winning driver was on a team that was not in the top 2.
That's right. Sorry.
Yeah, and
like I said, if you look at the difference between 1st and 8th, it's 469 to 152, something like that. So that tells you everything you need to know about the performances of those two drivers.
Well, if Chris can hear us, he might be able to. But I want to figure out what happened to Checo during this race, right? I mean, what's your take on that, Jonathan? He was saying I've lost power, but he was also spinning in the middle of the track right before he said that.
I know. It was a weird one. It looked like a mechanical because, like you say, he had a radio back that he was struggling. It's hard because everybody's been complaining about all sorts over this weekend, so it's hard to work out. But there's definitely something wrong. I mean, regardless of his form right now, that was an unfalsed error in my opinion. So there must have been something, whether it be hydraulics, whether it be electrics, whatever.
Yeah, and I just don't. Yeah, I mean, and what was the timing of that problem? Right? Was it?
That's another thing is we don't get it live. We get it,
Right.
So that could be part of why the confusion is for us, the viewer, as it were.
Well, we'll see if Chris has found out anything more on that. But
I might go to f1.com and see if their commentary has got a reason for, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was just checking social media to see if anything else popped up, but I didn't look at who driver of the day. I'm going to guess Verstappen, but let me see if I can find that. I don't see it right off the top, but well, anyway, let's look at some of the highlights of this race. What was that, Casey? Oh, I don't know. Casey
Yeah, driver of the day, Joe Guan Yu. And actually deserved. And for a guy who's out of a job, really good.
Yep. I agree. I was thinking Gasly could have also been in there.
Yeah, he could have been in the running, but Joe was making up places right at the end there and driving really well. So I'm happy for him, to be honest. I think he's been given a. It's a bit like Tsunoda and Red Bull. He doesn't get a look in, does he?
We've now just talked more about Zhou Guan Yu than we have the entire season.
Well, he's another guy that went to New Zealand, so I know him pretty good. I've met his parents, and he's a really nice guy.
Oh, he did. I didn't realize that. He
yeah.
The Toyota Racing Series.
Yeah, and he brought his family down who couldn't speak a lick of English. So I battled away because they speak Cantonese because they're from Guangdong province. So my little Cantonese that I had from being there for 6 years helped to sort of, I was saying good luck in Chinese to them and they were laughing and, it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Casey. He did get driver of the day. First points for Sauber, for Kick Sauber. Wow. That is
pretty impressive.
Yeah, normally you end up talking a little bit about the teams, like, for example, Kick, the video platform. I don't think we've mentioned them all year either.
No.
I mean,
and I'll tell you what, it bodes well because Joe is looking at several reserve roles. The highest of which is Ferrari, because he was a member of the Ferrari Academy.
Okay.
So obviously Ferrari, if you've Hamilton and Leclerc, if you've got the headphones on, and who knows what's going to happen with Hamilton. If he really does give up the ghost, Joe's in a perfect spot. And he's going to be doing all the simulator work. He's going to be, he's very cerebral. So he's a good guy as a reserve driver. Up there with Bottas without the experience, perhaps, but probably still with more hunger than a Bottas. But he's also got offers from other teams as a reserve. So where he goes is important, I think. But he's come to the realization that his best bet to stay in Formula One is to take a reserve role.
Yeah. Hey, something else I was thinking about, Jonathan. We've talked about Max, how last week, of course, after when he won the championship, we talked about how he's such a complete driver. So obviously with the physical skills and the hyper competitiveness, but we talked a lot about his cerebral side and his leadership side. And today he showed that again. He immediately jumps on the radio and is going, "Hey, did Lando slow down during that red flag?" Yeah. And, calling strategy for the team. And I know that's not a huge thing, but
no. But you've hit on a point that has been made, but not really. History is hindsight. And I do think that when you really sum up the Red Bull season as a whole, the car wasn't good enough, and that's why the gap is between. If we're trying to be nice, at least to Perez, could anybody have got that car to be with what Verstappen made out of it? So that's one factor. Two, what was going on behind the scenes, his father, Helmut Marko, Adrian Newey, Horner. And it sounds to me, and Helmut Marko summed it up, which is, he made a car that wasn't good enough to win. You remember that quote that we got last week. And I just thought that was a brilliant way of summing up what has been a really, really difficult year of transition from a Red Bull dominating team era to a not so dominating era, and yet he as a driver, as you say, has been the leader in all of this for his own good, and that's really, really impressive.
Yeah, and a leader because, like Helmut Marko said, the calmness through the team, through that storm, was led by Max Verstappen. So I mean, he's just, somewhere during the weekend, I saw somebody say, "I hope he doesn't pull a Nico Rosberg." And just
right. Well, you know what? I was just about to say, I'm happy to go on record and say, I think that eventually, if this FIA thing gets worse and that they tittle-tattle about swearing, or there's something else that comes up and the drivers aren't listened to and he keeps getting fined, I can see him doing a Nico and saying, all right, I'm 30 now, I'm done.
Yeah, and I've secured my place in history.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Maybe 5 championships. I don't think he's going to go, I've got to get 8. He's not that kind of guy. I think he would say, I'm just not enjoying it anymore. I'm going to go and do skiing or something.
All right, well, Chris is back with us. Chris, we were talking about Checo and what happened. I mean, it looked like I didn't see. What I'm wondering is, did he actually have a failure, or was it caused by him over revving the engine when he spun, or what happened?
So I think the latter might be true from some of the quotes that I've seen.
Really?
Potentially he's admitting that there was a lack, sudden surge of power he wasn't expecting, and that caused him to spin, and that might have led to damage. But I think I'm just going to get a quick one question, or maybe two. I'm not sure how long I'll get here. But with Mattia Binotto, the CEO and COO of Sauber Motorsport, it's many hats you have to wear. And it's obviously a big transition period for this team. But to get points finally on the board today with Zhou Guanyu, how good does that feel?
It's very good. It's very helpful. It's really putting a lot of energy and boost to the team. It's encouraging at the end because we are working hard in the last weeks, months, try really to improve the car, to get not to a point at least where we can fight. Somehow to score points, still, I think we need something has to happen ahead of us. But we had a good race, solid race. Joe did well on scoring points. Now it's certainly looking ahead at the winter season. And next year is very important to us.
Yeah, I mean, the team announced big investment from Qatar Investment Authority this week as well. Just how much are you looking forward to getting stuck in, I guess, over the next 12 months to prepare for the Audi arrival in 2026?
I think for us, it's a continuous improvement that's necessary. It's not waiting simply for a 2026 or whenever. We need to continuously improve to better, to somehow look at what's required, make sure that we are doing the right choices, and put in place really the actions and the tasks which are necessary to become a successful team in the future.
Well, just final question then. One part of that will be your drivers. You've got Gabriel Bortoleto joining you next year, and he's up for the championship at Formula 2 next weekend. How close are you going to be watching that fight?
I was closing very close the entire season. I look at it as well. This weekend here in Qatar, he did very well, by the way. Obviously, a bit unlucky. Now the championship is very tight. Certainly, we will have a look and supporting him as much as we can.
Awesome. Well, Mattia, thank you very much, and well done today to the team.
Oh, nice job, Chris.
Great stuff.
Well, I'm just glad we could get him.
The former team principal of Ferrari, now at Sauber Motorsport. So he's technically not team principal at stake, Sauber. He's CEO and COO of the overall Sauber Motorsport brand, which will become Audi in 26. And weirdly, he didn't actually get a lot of attention this weekend with that announcement. It was all on the Audi CEO, Gunnar Dollner, that was here. So I thought, you know what, let's go and give him a bit of airtime. But also, as you say, the drive today from Joe and just the result for the team, I think deserves a tip of the cap, because that must have been, we talked about Alpine and their turnaround, but that must have been so tough for Sauber this year when they've got nothing to fight for in 10th place. They're so far adrift. Yeah, they're not getting anywhere further up the championship standings. So it's almost pride they're racing for. And it was really good to see them finally be rewarded with a top 10.
And again, when you look at their history, they've always been the little team that can. And so to see them that far down, they've always been at the bottom of midfield or close and had some great results and some half decent seasons. But this was pretty much the toughest one I've seen for them.
Maybe the most champagne celebrated 4 points in recent history anyway, for sure. They've got to be celebrating, and well-deserved. Why not? I mean, and it's funny, they have started looking better in these last few races, haven't they?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, Chris,
sorry, bit of news on Alpine. That was one of the reasons I just disappeared for a while. I was bothering as many team members as I could that I know, and all of them admittedly have that wry smile when like, oh, yeah, we just had a great result, and now you're coming and asking us about something totally different and digging for a story. But essentially, the amount of no comments, including from the Ocon camp, who said today we can't comment. This has all the hallmarks of this is true, and that they maybe are going to make an announcement tomorrow to say Doohan's in and thank you Esteban or something along those lines. So I did get a steer that it was kind of starting to brew ahead of the race, and that the team were kind of just trying to focus, or many of those that were operational were just ignoring whatever was going on to focus on doing their jobs, and they certainly did that with Pierre Gasly's car. So it had been sort of happening earlier today, it sounds like, whatever it is that has happened, and we should get real news of it, I think, in the next day or two.
Yeah, good call. I agree.
What else? I'm just checking here to see if we haven't talked about any of the other finishers. We touched on Yuki Tsunoda. just briefly, I mean, I don't know. The car just didn't seem very fast. He jumped right up.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I sum up RB as being this was a tragic weekend for them across the board, starting with their poor qualifying. And I mean, if you remember back to qualifying, Tsunoda just missed out, and Lawson, missed out heavily. And so they were on the back foot from the start in trying to battle with Hassan and Alpine. So, this has been a really poignant weekend for RB's quest.
What about Lawson? He did not, again, had another disappointing,
I don't know if he's done enough and will do enough in the next week to sort of, the impetus was going with him to take Perez's drive. And he started so brightly and aggressively, and he's had some aggressive runs at Vegas with Magnussen and again today coming together, but getting the penalty. I saw that come up on screen and thought, that does, and same with Colapinto crashing again. Their stock just doesn't rise.
Yeah, what do you think, Chris?
Sorry, I'm just navigating my way into McLaren, so I'm going to keep my voice down slightly. I think today was a disappointing one for both sides, but or for a number of those guys. But you got to remember that sometimes when the car performance isn't there, and then teams chase different strategies, kind of go after it a little bit more, take gamble, it can actually look even worse than it could have been. So what might have been a solid result suddenly becomes a really bad one, and you judge the driver on it when really it's the team also saying, hey, why not? We're onto Heinington. I think let's roll the dice. So I wonder if that happened at RB a little bit today. Certainly when they did that last stint on the softs, I did wonder that. So that could well have been the case with that one. But not one that helped anyone's reputation on that front, I don't think.
Hey, Chris, I know you're trying to get McLaren. We need to get a break in. Should we grab it now, or are you about to
go ahead now. Go ahead
All
now.
right. All right, well, let's do that. Let's grab our last break of the day. You're listening to Speed City. Back after these messages. David Lawrence has joined the party. How are you, David? That's what David's saying here. He said Joe Goodell should have been driver of the day. Yep. And then he saw that he was. Yes, we're absolutely excited about that.
Yeah, well earned that one.
Yep. Let's see what else. So, second Red Bull seat, Lawson or Colapinto? Who gets it? That was a few minutes ago he actually said that. So that's a good question. And I completely agree with you, Chris, what you were saying about the car. It hasn't been a good time to really judge Lawson. I mean, he came out of the box just looking like he was the guy, right? Battling Alonso, doing good, getting points. But lately, the car just hasn't been there.
Yeah, I think we've seen some fluctuations in form recently, but I hope I was on topic with that because I had tuned out trying to signal if I could get Andrea Stella, but sadly he was going into engineering, so didn't get him on that occasion. I'll make sure I go back down there before the end of the show. How long we got on the break? Because I might be able to get the winning constructor again.
1 minute. David Lawrence.
This might be one more. Sorry, go ahead.
Says Chris is the man. I think that was right when you were grabbing the last interviews. Where are we? What happened here?
Yeah, those look good.
Man, I'm going to have to put some more RAM or something in my computer. I have to keep getting that low resources thing. Sorry, guys. We're doing the show from our homes today because Bob Varsha, if you haven't heard, he's not feeling well. He's under the weather. He was sick in Vegas, and Jonathan's under the weather. And I said, I'm not going to get in the same studio.
Yeah, and by the way, you made the right call. I thought I was feeling better, but I've started sweating again, so I've got a fever of sorts. So I'm glad I didn't come.
Yeah, we made that call last minute this morning and said,
I was on my way, and I just thought, I think I'm going to be okay.
Hi guys, this is Pierre Gasly, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Nice job, Casey, getting Pierre Gasly bumper there. Big day for him.
Sorry to jump straight in on you, John. I know that's very rude of me, but I've got Christian Horner here, who I'm sure is wanting to get in for another cup of tea, the way it's been going. But Christian, let's start with Max. I mean, what a performance yesterday and this afternoon. Just how much of that was car improvement? How much of that was special driver?
Look, I mean, Max has just been, amazing from the moment we gave him a car and turned it around yesterday. He's just delivered, fantastically well. And, all credit to the engineering team that they've done a beautiful job this weekend. In the sprint race, we were beaten by Hulkenberg. This race, we stamped our authority on the Grand Prix from start to finish. So a brilliant job, brilliant comeback by the team, and hugely well executed race from Max.
Maybe something we don't give you guys enough credit for, actually. You were struggling so much in September, October time. How better is this car now from the work you've been doing?
Well, look, I mean, it got pole position and won the Grand Prix. So we didn't start from pole, but it got it. We won 2 races ago in Brazil. We had the pole, so then won the sprint race in Austin. So we've definitely got performance on the car over the last few races. And that's testimony. That's our 9th victory compared to 5 of any other team. Brilliant result today. Sad that we weren't able to defend our constructors title, but delighted with the performance and obviously that driver's title.
Well, yeah, and all 9 victories from Max Verstappen. So sad to do a familiar theme, but Sergio Perez retiring today. What happened there? Was it a driver issue first, or was it car problem?
I think, we need to have a look at the data. It looks like he's had a spin and then obviously dropped the clutch, and that's caused an issue. But let's have a look at the data, and I don't want to make any comments without having all are hard facts without all the info.
And Dr. Marco was speaking last week about a shareholder meeting after Abu Dhabi. I mean, what's kind of the outlook for the team? Is there still uncertainty over that seat heading into 25?
Well, look, Checo can't be enjoying the situation that he's got at the moment. He's determined to finish the season on a high. Anything, regarding the drivers would always be dealt with behind closed doors. And most of all, I think our priority is get to the checkered flag in Abu Dhabi and see if we can finish the season on a more positive note with Checo.
All right, well, that's more than Alpine seems to have done with their lineup at the end of the season. So, we're hearing that there could be a change there this week. So, we look forward to watching Checo race in Abu Dhabi, and thank you for your time.
Chris, it sounds like what we were speculating is that he may have overrevved the engine, dropped the clutch, or some other problem caused by that spin, and then his reaction after the spin. Sounds like.
Nicely put, though. I like the way you gave him an out.
What's that?
Oh, I just love the way Chris gave him an out to say, well, Alpine have done it.
Oh yeah, right. You know what?
Sorry, I was chinwagging afterwards while you guys were talking, and that chinwag also reinforced what we're hearing, that it may be a decision has been made from Alpine. That was not news to the people that were on the microphone. Should I put it that way?
Okay.
That was officially they said that, and then they're like, we too.
You're dropping out a little bit, Chris, but
we lost you there. Try again, Chris.
That was me ending. I was just saying that they. Sorry, I did wonder why it all went quiet. That it was just that. The same things that we've been hearing and reporting have been heard by team bosses elsewhere too.
Hey, I've got a hot take on this about the way this has been handled with Checo. Is that I know that this is all about the money, right? But it just puts a bad light on the sport. You've got the reigning champions and Max putting Red Bull in the spotlight with just an amazing drive. And then you've got this driver who's just underperforming so dramatically with all the stats we've been talking about. And it just, it puts a bad light on the sport. I mean, it does to me. It kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth about it. Am I alone in that?
No, I'm with you. I do. I know what you mean. I've always criticized Red Bull's way of going about stuff. And I as you know, when I've been following the Lawson story, and I think that's not been good either. And I knew that Helmut Marko would come out with that comment of who wants who wants the seat type thing.
Yeah. Well, and we all know that the sport is. And like lots of sports, money is a part of it, and there's nothing you can do about that. But I don't know. This one just rubbed me a little bit wrong. But hey, we're getting down to like the last 5 minutes. Just thinking about any other stories we missed out about. I mean, look, we touched on this, but gosh, did Hamilton have the worst possible day ever? What was going on when he was saying, I want to pit the car? Chris, did you get that?
I didn't get that. I mean, I will admit, in true Formula One media center style, the team radio audio was not working. So we could see drivers were talking and we weren't hearing them. So, didn't actually hear him say those words. But, I mean, well, we've just been talking about drivers that are not seeing out the season and what might have happened with certain ones that have been at teams for decent spells. Lewis Hamilton's been at Mercedes for a long, long time. But I think it almost given the opportunity, he'd have jumped ship by now and gone. Certainly would have wanted to be driving that Ferrari, but potentially would have just been like, you know what, give Kimi Antonelli his run outs, and I'll have a nice goodbye and then go elsewhere, because it just seems like he's really not enjoying it right now. That's not a criticism of Lewis or me saying that he's being unprofessional in that way. That's just me saying, you know, the harmony seems to have disappeared from that partnership as it's come towards its end, which, you know, Toto Wolff said was always going to be tough to maintain at the start of the year. That when you've got a whole season together, knowing it's coming to an end, that would be a tricky one to handle. And they've generally done a very good job of it, certainly with some of the results in the middle of the season as well. But just the way it's ended has been a bit of a tough watch. So from a personal point of view, I think it would be great to see Lewis have a strong weekend in Abu Dhabi just to finish on a high, because certainly both he and the team deserve that.
Who does it suit, Abu Dhabi?
Do you know what? I actually think it's a really good all-rounder. So I don't think there's anyone it's going to overly suit. I'd expect Red Bull to still be, you know, a race-winning car, a competitive option. I don't think it will suit Mercedes quite so much. But the thing is, it's not bumpy, but it's not as smooth as here. And it has some high speed, some low speed, some long straights. It kind of, you need a little bit of everything around that track. So I kind of would say, and it's going to be warmer as well than what we've had recently. So I'd kind of be looking at McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull as more likely to be a 3 rather than a 4. But, you know, Mercedes' recent form, it's tough to read, isn't it? I mean, we've seen them be really struggle at times, and we've seen them be really strong at times. So there I'd have more of a question mark with. I think the fact it's an all-round test means the cars that have been consistent, I'd have more faith in. So, I think more that top 3. It's going to be fascinating in that constructors' fight, certainly.
Yeah, that constructors battle, McLaren with 640 and 21 points behind, with Ferrari with 619. So that is obviously the big headline going into next weekend. And then Red Bull back at 581. I don't know the math on that, but I think you'd have to have something crazy. But yeah, that's going to be a really fun thing to watch going into the final race of the year. And, you know, with a 21-point lead, McLaren's obviously got be the favorite, but as we saw today, anything can happen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
it's been a bit like that all season, hasn't it? Every time we think we know what's coming, just when we think we've got a handle on it, whether it was the way Lando was starting to claw his way. Well, let's start at the start. Max dominating us. That's another Red Bull easy championship win on both fronts. Yeah. Then McLaren coming back, and then Lando. You weren't too sure if they were really going to do it, but just when it looked like they were after Mexico, and the way Brazil had started, Max has that performance in the race in Brazil and completely ends that. Then the Alpine switched around for sixth place. Ferrari went terribly and then started coming back mid-season. It's just, I think there's got to be a twist right at the end.
Yeah, and the truth is McLaren, you know, when you listen to what Norris has said and what Zach has said, I don't think they ever really thought they were in a title chase.
Yeah, and, you know, I think that also you think about McLaren, the momentum that they lost today, it kind of typifies the last few races, right? After Austin, you know, we had Ferrari double win in Austin, and you think, okay, where's McLaren? And they're hanging in there, and they're probably gonna win this constructors champion, well deserved. It just seems like they've lost, they've been out of sync a little bit, right?
Yeah. And like I said, they made mistakes mid-season that doesn't look, you know, we accuse them of not being used to winning and not, you know, the whole Piastri, does he, you know, help Norris and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. All right. Well,
they're going to get it done. Just to follow up from the big talking point we've had all show, there's not been a senior person in this paddock that I've spoken to that has said that I'm wrong, that Esteban Ocon is done at Alpine. Okay. So I think from everything we piece together, I think we can say that he's moved on.
All right. Well, the final race of the season next weekend. It's going to be an early start. It's going to be a 7 a.m. Eastern pre-race show next weekend. Of course, we got wheel to wheel, Chris and I on Wednesday. But thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks, Jonathan Green, Chris Medland. Get well, Bob Varsha, and we'll talk to everybody next week.
Happy trails.